Hello, everybody. Welcome today to our webinar on service-oriented IT. Today's topic is, again, the business value of service-oriented IT. So our webinar format for today, we're going to have a panelist discussion on the key considerations related to the topic. And today's topic is focused specifically on again, the business value. We'll look at it from three perspectives: customer satisfaction, cost transparency, and risk mitigation. So we'll jump right in. First, I'd like to introduce the panelists to you. Pierre?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Pierre Paquette. My background is in software development, and over the last 25 years, I've been involved in all kinds of projects in terms of developing tools for this space, mainly asset management. But it really does, it's an eye-opener when organizations purchase software expecting results and are left a little bit hanging where the software isn't providing the results they want. And I've seen it time and time again, and that's why I've gravitated more towards the service side of things and helping organizations get the most they can out of the tools they're buying, but also helping them realize there are other things that need to be done and not just purchasing tools. So that's really that's my fit into this this team at RAPA.
My name is Susan Odell. I'm a COO and the business lead for RAPA, and my background is 20 years on the business side of IT. Most of that in enterprise software environment from a services as well as a technology itself. My specialty is really in measurable improvement for operations as well as customers acquiring technology. How are they going to measurably benefit from that, and to ensure that as a services organization, everything that we're doing is marching towards milestones and customer benefit. My background is across ITAM, service management, systems management, document management, and learning management solutions from a business perspective. Richard?
My name is Richard Larocque. I'm the IT service management lead with RAPA. I've been doing IT-related consulting work for over 25 years now. The last 15 or so specializing in IT service management, so helping clients move towards a service management model. Obviously, a lot of that work has been ITIL-based, although some of the clients were more on that ISO IEC 20000 certification approach. The idea always being I'm a person that is in between the business and the technology side, so hence why we're all three of us so complementary, because I kind of always have worked in trying to make sure the relationship between business and IT goes as smoothly as possible.
Okay, so to again jump right in, we do intend our webinars to be 30 minutes of high impact content that you can take away and think about in your organization. So when we talk about business value of service-oriented IT, what does that mean in context to IT overall? At the end of the day, there's a lot going on in IT. On the operational side in terms of the components of IT that need to be managed, and on the management side, the more strategic things that the organization is trying to accomplish. So let's break down those two perspectives on IT, and then we'll move into our discussion from there. So, on the operational side, there are lots of things going on in terms of cloud management platforms. You're trying to move as much as you can from an on-prem to a virtualized, whether it's private or hybrid or completely in a public cloud environment. You've got tools out there for managing your configuration, managing your operations, your systems, and even your assets from an asset management platform perspective. Lots of COBIT's the leading governance framework and standards around that for your processes and your policies. If you're lucky, you've got an IT financial management system for granular information, but most organizations are still struggling with how to make sense of IT finance in corporate finance systems, and of course ERP applications for managing your people and your facilities. So lots of stuff going on. Richard, Pierre?
Yeah, from the operational side, this is more where I've been living for the last several years. Is all these different silos are trying to get to that, are trying to take the journey into IT as a service. And from an operational level, there's a lot of things we try to do to make our IT more service oriented. And in some cases, it happens in silos. We're looking at technology, and we're looking at improving processes. We're looking at moving things to the cloud, thinking that moving things to the cloud is moving towards IT as a service, but it is happening in silos. And in the other areas as well, in terms of in finance and HR, they're struggling with the same concepts. Is how do we move towards IT as a service?
Yeah, and one of the interesting thing here is we're showing the complexity of IT, and that's something that IT's been, too good at trying to sell to clients, saying IT is very complex. But what we want to try to achieve is making it simple for our clients to deal with us, and so we want to shelter them from this complexity and not get them to have to understand the silos they have to deal with and the processes and all the complexity, but making it a simple interface for them. So that means us doing a better job at managing our things internally so that we can be service oriented and a service management organization.
Yeah, and it's tackling the journey from the technology up, which in some cases is good because it gives you a chance of knowing what is possible. But if you're letting technologists determine what the services are, I think that's a little backwards. And I love technology, and I'm overzealous about implementing new technology, but is it really going to provide better service in the end to the end client? And having that ability to look at things from the business down and looking at a service as being just a service and not worrying about how it's being stood up, then that definitely needs to happen.
And on the strategic side of IT, you've got management, and management being your middle managers, but then are trying to achieve the goals of your CIO, of your director of technology, your director of vendor management. They're trying to do things like all this stuff on the operational side, all of these pieces. Well, what is it truly costing me at the end of the day to deliver certain capabilities out of that? If I've got all of these applications and systems and servers and for my HR applications, well, how much is that truly costing me? That's a big question that organizations have a ton of difficulty to answer. They want to know, are they managing risk effectively? How can they move from reactive risk management or fire extinguishing to proactive risk management? How do they know what the impact of change, new application or a new type of class of hardware supporting an application, and at the same time failure? What if a component goes down? What is impacted by that? And then how do you measure business value of your budget? If your organization is spending $1 million a year on IT, or 50 or 200 or $1 billion a year, you want to be able to measure the business value of that spend. So there are two perspectives, but at the end of the day, the question always should be, how is all of it serving clients?
Okay.
Okay, so a few discussion points on this slide
I think we've
here.
got a slide here.
Whoops. There we go.
Yeah, if we could just stay there for a minute.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the discussion points. I mean, before, when we had the division up there, oftentimes the division is more evident. From the business side, we're interested in true costs and risk management and the impact of change and the business value. And that's great from a business point of view. Too often, again, the silos come in and they're trying to answer these from the silo approach, and that's okay. I mean, you need that from the different areas of business. What needs to happen is to look at, what's happening in each one of these silos, and how does it affect risk overall. So yeah, there is risk that starts at that level, at the technology level or at the finance level, but what is the risk that comes from a combination of information coming from 2 or 3 of these areas? And sometimes that falls through the cracks in terms of risk, as well as in terms of true cost, right? The true cost of providing a service is tied to some technology and some contracts and some procurement and some standing up a solution. But you also have to consider the soft costs that are tied to the service. And I think that's an important point that people that organizations need to realize that in some cases, the soft costs outweigh the hard costs, and just to be aware of that.
And another point, and by the context that we have on the left-hand side with regards to frameworks at COBIT, ISO, talking about process, a way of bringing these silos to work together as one is through having efficient, effective processes that ensure things are done consistently across the organization, regardless of technology and group or organization, and that feeds into the right-hand side questions. Is if you have the right processes, the right policies in place, and you track and do end-to-end life cycling of incidents and problems and changes, you can assess your business value more easily. You can understand impact of change, obviously do risk management. So definitely the middle piece with regards to the business side of IT, of policies and processes, is essential to bring all these things together.
So the considerations we've noted below in terms of the context of service-oriented IT is, I think, breaking down the, and not in all cases, but the assumption that it's the service management team within IT, that dedicated group, that is solely responsible for bringing service-oriented IT to life, and that certainly isn't the case. As we've been talking about already, all of these components have to come together, and it takes contribution from a cross-section of people and individuals in order to make this happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen too many times organizations putting the responsibility of IT service management into one team, hoping or believing that that one team will be able to bring the entire organization together, and that is just impossible. It has to come from everyone, from every area of the organization. It's really not the sole responsibility of just one team.
Right.
Right. So clear goals being identified, but the collaborative impact or effect of achieving them is crucial.
Right, and that alignment of goals at every level. So managers that have their duties for the year and what they need to accomplish, those are typically aligned with the strategic plan for IT for the year. Well, then at a functional level, how are the things that your operational teams are doing on a day-to-day basis? How do those map up as well? So making those goals very clear at every level and assessing, do I have the linkages there that I need to have, is critical as well.
And that's where service level agreements, operational level agreements, and contracts with outside providers come into play. There has to be a clear understanding of what we're trying to deliver as an organization and how all these pieces fall together. And that's the role of service level agreements and OLAs, is to say how these pieces come into play. And all that has to be driven by having well-identified services.
I guess it's the old problem of how do you marry the technology to the business, and it's that glue in between that's hard to specify, hard to bring together. And what we're saying is it comes together through collaboration and clear goals, but understanding that it is, it's not just the responsibility of one team. It's a constant push from multiple areas. Realizing that, yes, there is work to be done inside our own silos, but together there's work to be done there, and that's really the glue, is when things come together.
And the last point we wanted to cover was just, it's a very simple point but important. On-prem versus cloud implementation of IT capabilities is not the same thing as service-oriented IT, and it can be confusing. You've got software as a service, infrastructure as a service, all these things as a service. That is not the cultural and organizational shift to say that we're going to operate to deliver and simplify the experience to our clients of everything moving towards a service delivery organization, from the people, from how things are priced, how they're put together, how products are released. It's not just about virtualizing components.
Right. The on-prem and the cloud is really more of how you're delivering the service and not what service you're delivering, right?
It goes to the point we made earlier about sheltering the clients from the complexity. in the end, that it comes from a cloud, from a proprietary data center, or anywhere else, in the end, it's a service we deliver to our clients, and we need to deliver as a service. However, we obtain it as IT. So yeah, it shouldn't be confusing these things.
Right.
Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. We ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now we want to talk about business value. Again, the topic of the webinar, but now with the context, having gone through that, I think it's going to resonate even more. So there's 3 areas that we'll look at. The first is cost transparency. So if I'm able to purchase my IT capabilities as a service, I'm the director of marketing, I'm the director of HR, I'm the director of facilities management, right? Whatever my role is within the organization, because again, IT is just one department within a bigger business or bigger organization. I would like to know what I'm buying. I'd like the predictability of knowing the services and the capabilities that I'm buying will remain the same unless we negotiate a new price for that that service. So service-oriented IT is really about IT bundling a capability or capabilities into a package that is clearly defined and delivered as an end-to-end service. And typically that's renewed annually. So that delivers predictability for your clients from a budgeting point of view, and they get insulated again from those complexities in IT. Richard, any thoughts on
Okay. Well, yeah, I was waiting. Pierre usually jumps in before me. So yeah, certainly. I mean, that's certainly one of the things that both the clients and the IT senior management wants to understand is how much is it costing me to deliver these services, and getting the understanding of what services you deliver is the first thing that you need to do to get there. Otherwise, you're dealing with a hodgepodge of systems, applications, and technologies that don't really make sense to a client. So, being able to bring that total cost of IT is a great goal to have. It's a difficult one to attain. We've worked in that direction, but it's certainly something that understanding that I'm a service, delivery organization is the first step moving towards there.
Yeah, that's a good point you're raising. Sorry, Pierre, now I'm talking over you.
Go ahead.
But just that point, I didn't want to lose it about the journey. So everything as we go through the last 10 minutes approximately of our webinar today, these are not 3-month projects. This is about changing the way IT does business. It's a journey, it's progressive, but if you don't start, that end goal of cost transparency will never be attainable. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, the cost transparency is that goal, and during the journey, or as part of the journey is the goal, but during that journey it really helps you when you look at it from cost transparency point of view is what makes up the service. And if we're looking at the different components, if offhand IT's asked, what is it costing you to provide that service, maybe the resulting answer won't be complete. It won't be the whole picture of what it costs for it. So sometimes we leave things out. So I think it's a good approach to really tackle, cost transparency as one of those value statements that we're looking to resolve.
Okay, so the next pillar of value is risk mitigation, and this is a big one. This one is actually a little more internal facing. So the first one, cost transparency, is a very visible and apparent value for your clients. Internal to IT, it's about availability, making sure that the services, or if you're not in a service-oriented IT mode today, if you haven't achieved that, then you have capabilities that are probably quite fragmented and individually put together that you need to deliver and supply to your customers. But you need to make sure that they're available. Downtime is, of course, a nightmare for IT and for your clients. So this whole idea of being service-oriented means that you've developed, let me just get this next build up here. There we go. Means that you've developed the capability that you have full knowledge of all of the components that make up your services. And if you do, in fact, have full knowledge of those components, then you're able to proactively ensure availability during times of planned change. So if you're embarking on a change management initiative, then you know what's going to be affected and you can plan for that change and avoid downtime. But no environment's ever going to go without interruption, but at least if you know the components and there is an interruption, you can respond faster and then hopefully minimize the downtime. So that risk mitigation is an internal goal, but it absolutely benefits your clients and is a pillar of service-oriented IT.
Yeah, IT as a service truly needs the whole risk management behind it to make it work. I think they go hand in hand, and as much as risk management feeds to availability, it also feeds to predictability, which we talked about under cost transparency. But it's understanding again what you've got and understanding the risks tied to it. And there's some risks that you're willing to take and some that you're not willing to take, and it's to be able to manage that so that the quality of service is at its highest.
And the way to achieve that, going back, harping on the process side of things again, it's all about establishing the right process and then following them. We talk about full knowledge of the components. This obviously points to generally a CMDB or something along those lines. Well, there's no automatic way to do that. You need to have the right processes to maintain that information and keep it up to date. Otherwise, you're creating more risk than you're actually resolving. So, again, the service orientation, being able to understand how things I do impact an overall service and what I need to do to make sure I don't break that overall service is essential.
Okay, our third pillar is customer satisfaction, and this one is very simple. We talked about this, Richard mentioned it on the previous slide. Insulating our customers from the complexities of IT. This is critical. So it's about, again, you've got your packaged service that is presented to the customer in a business context. Here are I've gathered your requirements, Director of Finance. I know what your team needs to do. We can provide that capability to you. Here's your cost per annum, and here's the problems that it's going to solve within your finance department. I mean, really, your client does not care that there are 5 systems and 27 applications with a host of physical servers that have, replication. It does not matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, and they don't really care about the the complexities of OLAs that are underpinning those components, and really what they're looking at is that the SLA that's defined between client and service to really consume services and not consume technology. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for companies moving from traditional IT to a service-based IT is to get past that, and that particular change within organizations is a big step that they need to realize that it is a big step. So taking that step, simplifying the services that are provided to customers, and working towards providing quality service. Again, quality of service is important when we're moving towards a service-oriented IT.
Yeah, we as IT people, we have been we have trained our clients to talk our language for a long time. So now we have clients coming to us with solutions as opposed to services. So there is we almost have to re-educate our clients to deal with us in a business sort of way. But that is part of making that transition to being a service-oriented organization. I mean, we don't want clients to come to us with specific technologies. We want them to come to us with specific needs, and we, as IT experts, try to find the best way of delivering that or fulfilling that need.
Terrific. Okay, so the next level we're going to build on here is the idea of comparability, and you can see that it's consistent across all 3 of the business values. If you're buying a service, IT is a service provider within an organization, just as a service provider externally that provides service to an organization is a service provider. So clients want to be able to compare costs. Not only clients, but IT should be able to, and the way that you can compare costs with external service providers is to build that service yourself, understand the components, cost the components, and now you have something you can compare internally and externally. The center column for risk mitigation, the comparison effort is really more, again, internal to IT, but is the service I've put together, is it in line with industry standards of what that service should contain, how it should be delivered? Am I meeting industry standards? Am I going up well above and beyond what is the norm? That ability to compare. So comparability, again, is a consistent theme when we're talking about service-oriented IT.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll jump in, and I always expect Pierre to jump in, so I pause. But yeah, comparability, and the important thing about comparability is, you can't compare a mess. I'm sorry, the term may be hard, but you have to clean up house before you can even consider doing comparability, and that's part, again, of the journey to becoming a service organization. You have to clean up what you have, even if you're considering at some point outsourcing, as just a benefit to the organization. If you clean up what you have before you go to outsourcing, you're much better able to understand what you're getting than if you're saying, here's a pile of IT things that we have, take it over. So it's essential to really clean up, and again, a journey.
Yeah, if you're looking to external service providers, knowing what you've got and managing things well gives you the ability to go to external service providers to acquire maybe services at the service level, but also maybe infrastructure. So giving you that full picture of knowing where maybe you have some shortcomings that you can go to external providers, or to outsource IT completely. I mean, that's one extreme. So again, you can't manage what you don't know, and moving towards IT as a service will help you know better what you do know. So it kind of leads into the other webinars that we have planned over the next couple of months. It's really to look at each one of these components, to dive in a little bit deeper to understand what needs to be done. So if we're talking about processes, which ones are we talking about? If we're talking about components that you're managing, which components we're talking about? Bringing it all together. Here, business value, we're talking about cost transparency, risk mitigation, customer satisfaction, all going towards quality of service. And that's really what you're trying to achieve, is a quality service and a service. And we will touch on that through the upcoming webinars.
Right. So encourage you to go back. Everyone who's on the webinar now, you know what the link is, but we've listed it down for you below, so you can go and register for those follow-on sessions. So on that note, it's amazing how quickly 30 minutes goes by. Really quite.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. So on March 24th, which is 2 weeks from now, our webinars, the series of 11, will be running every 2 to 3 weeks. So I encourage you to go back and check. So on March 24th at 11:30 a.m. this is actually our regular time for most of the webinars. We'll be talking about clients and services. So the first and second layer of the IT component hierarchy from a SACM point of view, service asset and configuration management. And we're really going to be talking about that. What do clients consume, and services that are generic to the whole organization, like desktop enablement, versus those kind of services that you might define that are specific to an organization, and what are the nuances around that. So we'll look forward to you joining us on that webinar. If you have any outstanding questions about the content today, please let us know. If there's anything we touched on that you'd like us to go deeper, we're more than happy to add it to the calendar, moving past our session 11 on this topic. And if there's anything else at all that you think that we could shed some light on for you, we certainly would love to hear from you. So Richard, Pierre, any closing thoughts?
No, looking forward to deeper conversations on some of these subjects, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.